Man, Marvel even does CW shows better than DC does. Hey everyone, it's me, Aaron.
And I'm Michelle.
And this is the post-Geekout reaction for the first 3 episodes of Marvel's Runaways. Now, for anybody who has not seen a post-Geekout reaction before, it is not a review. In a review, I would sit down, think of everything I want to say, tape it all out, and when this show is done, I will do that for the first season. But for just the first 3 episodes, we're doing a post-Geekout reaction, which is just an open, honest discussion between the two of us about the thing that we just watched, and that does include full spoilers. However, we will still try to hold back on the spoilers a bit, because both of us have read the source material that this comes from, and there are huge twists that come down the road in this story, in the comic, and we're gonna try and not mention that in case it does happen in the show. However, we might make a few like, oh, do you think that that thing, you know the thing, happens? You know, like that kind of thing.
Like, I didn't read the entire series because you told me eventually it starts getting worse.
Well, now, you read the entire first story arc.
Yeah.
You read up until, this part I can spoil because I know that it will not happen in the show. You read up till the point where Captain America comes in and goes, what seems to be the problem, children? Yeah, like you read up to that. So that's gonna be the first season of this. And then after that, it'll probably go off in a completely different direction because in the books, in the next story arc for it, they actually go up to New York City and start interacting with all the big name heroes. They ain't gonna have Spider-Man pop up in this.
I'm kind of glad. Like I want Runaways to kind of be like its own separate thing.
Which I think was kind of the point of it because in the comics, all the heroes exist in New York City.
Right.
And these kids were out in LA, and they even stop at one point to mention in the comics, the reason why there are no heroes out in LA is because of the Pride. The Pride has been keeping all the heroes out of LA this entire time, which is great because, yeah, it really gives you that sense that, yeah, these kids are alone. They can't call anyone for help. But okay, for anybody who has not seen it, basically, well, it's on Hulu. If you can watch it, you know what you've already seen it. But yeah, The Runaways, it's one of the most critically acclaimed books that Marvel has ever done. It's by Brian K. Vaughan, who is one of the biggest names in indie comics, has been for the past decade. And it's the story of these kids who they get together once a year because their parents all get together for a meet once a year. And so they've kind of gotten to know each other very slightly throughout the years. And then one year, when they all get together for their annual meeting, they decide, you know what, why don't we finally see what our parents are up to? They sneak in, spy on them, and discover that their parents are basically supervillains. And each of them basically represents like a different archetype of a villain. Like there's gangsters, there's wizards, there's time travelers, there's mad scientists, there's mutants, which they ain't gonna be popping up in this show. Well, okay, they are the ones I won't reveal because that one might be a spoiler for this show because they might not be doing it, but they might be doing it. The deal with Carolina, she may be that same thing in this, but I'm getting a sense like they might be doing something different with her.
Yeah.
So I won't go into details on that. But in this show, it's real similar, but there are changes. One of the changes is that they don't get together once a year to meet. They all go to the same high school. Which, okay, that makes total sense. Like, yeah, that's not that big of a change, but it does add a lot to this show. Because, like I said, one of the things about these kids is that they only saw each other once a year. Now these kids grew up, they were friends because their parents were friends. And another huge change that they made to this is that Nico, the daughter of the wizards, she had a sister, Amy. That was not in the comics at all.
No, that really surprised me. I was like trying to think back. It's like, I don't remember an Amy, but
yeah, and one thing that I'm kind of thinking is that typically whenever something, you know, happens in their shows or their movies, Marvel will try and introduce it in the comics. And The Runaways has been around for over a decade, and this has never come up. I don't know how you could possibly bring this up. That would be really weird to try and force in there like, oh yeah, she actually had a secret sister. Unless they do like something which it was like, oh, this is a secret sister who was like the evil twin and we never knew and she was off doing this thing and now she's back.
I like to think that maybe they're, like, once again doing a separate thing, kind of like how the Marvel cinema universe is different from the comic universe.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that the comics always try and like force like what happens in the movies and TV shows into the book. So I'm like, all right, I have no idea how you could do that with this. Yeah, they say that Nico had a sister and she died, but she was like the perfect kid and everybody loved her. And when she died, that's when the rift between them started, and they haven't hung out since then. But one night, Alex, who is sort of our protagonist, like he's the first one we get to meet.
Yeah.
Like everybody you get pretty equal time with, but he's the first one that you get to meet, which typically implies like they're supposed to be the one who we're following the most. Alex just decides, you know what, I want to try and get us all back together because his parents are like on him about, okay, you really need to start connecting with friends again. I know you're going off to college soon, but you need to realize, hey man, the friends you make now, that can be important. So he decides, you know what, maybe they're right. Maybe I should get them all together. Plus he's got a crush on Nico, and he tries to get all of them together again, and it doesn't go all that well. Another big change that they make in this, though, is that every single one of these kids, I was shocked at how close they match up to the comics. Like, it is really one for one. Like, every single one of them, like, God damn, these are really exact duplicates of themselves in the comics. Like, they got the look of each of them down. The only, like, change I can really think of is that Gertrude is not as chubby as she is in the comics. Like, she's not even chubby at all in this. She's just not, like, a supermodel. But the one character who they actually did change a lot is Molly, who is pretty much everyone's favorite in the comic. Like, I'm not gonna like say that as a standard rule. I know that someone's gonna say, well, she's not my favorite. Listen, I understand that, but yeah, for a long period of time, Marvel's like, we know this is the one that everyone loves. She's the little kid who says cute things and wears animal hoodies. Yeah, everybody loves this kid. They changed her quite a lot in here. And one of the first changes is that they did age her up because they had to get her into high school, but also because I can understand in the comics she's like 10 years old. I can understand, like, you know, it's hard to get a 10-year-old to be on board for all the stuff that's going on in the show. But yeah, they had to like age her up so that they could all be in high school together. But another huge change that they made is that her parents are dead in this. So she was adopted by Gert's parents, so the two of them have kind of been like sisters growing up together. That's kind of an interesting approach to take with this. And I totally understand why they're doing it, because, as I said, Molly's parents were mutants, and she's a mutant too, and that's why she has super strength. They're not gonna, they can't say that. They can't have the M word in this show. And I kept thinking, well, what are they gonna do? Are they gonna make her an Inhuman? Because that's something that they do in all these shows. They try and like substitute Inhumans for mutants in the Marvel shows. But they just haven't mentioned it at all. And I really think, as we just saw recently out here in the real world, Disney tried to buy Fox. And it didn't succeed. But I'm also working on a script for a future show in which I talk about, like, well, how could you introduce mutants and the Fantastic Four into the Marvel Universe? Like, what would happen if they had successfully bought that? How could you actually put those guys into your Marvel Cinematic Universe? And I was looking at a couple things and I was going, oh, well, this actually kind of links up pretty well. It almost seems like Marvel was hoping that at this point they would have those properties back. And I was thinking about this and I was like, I would not be shocked if they never, ever say what Molly is in this show or talk about her parents and what they secretly were. Unless Marvel finally gets a hold of mutants, then the second that happens, she's a mutant, baby. Yeah, her parents, also mutants. They were members of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, all right? They work with Magneto. We can say all the names now. Yeah, I would not be shocked if they honestly just hold off on everything that has to do with her origin and keep it a mystery up until they can finally say mutants. Also, another change is that they made her Hispanic, where she's another white character in there. And I'm totally fine with that because this is set in LA and only 2 of these 6 kids were people of color. The rest of them were white kids. And I was like, yeah, you know what? In the real world, it wouldn't be for white kids. So yeah, I totally understand them changing around the ethnicities of some of these characters.
Well, Alex is still black, so.
Well, they're not going to take one. They're not going to take one of the people of color and change them to a white person. That goes against the exact thing that I was just saying. Like, yeah, you know what? This really doesn't represent LA. More white people. No. Yeah. So now half of them are people of color. It's like, all right, that's a little bit more accurate. Also, another change that they made in here is that Gertrude's parents in the comics, they're time travelers. And you see Old Lace the raptor in here, which I just gotta say, I was worried about that raptor.
Yeah.
Because, like, I work in a comic shop and I heard so many people in there going like, oh man, yeah. Like, I saw like a brief glimpse of Old Lace in one of the trailers. Oh, I can't wait to see how they're gonna do her in there. And I was like, I can wait to see how they're gonna do her in there. Because no way do they have the budget to have a raptor running around in this show on a regular basis. This raptor looked pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really knew what they were doing with that.
I think the sponsors helped out with that.
That's one thing. That's one thing. I was going to save that, but yeah, let's go ahead and talk about that. I was looking at this and I was like, how the hell do they have the budget for these huge houses? And then when Old Lace popped up, I was like, holy cow, they are using this money well. That looks pretty damn good, and it looks like Old Lace.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the nose ring, the like purple stripe going down the middle, they gave her feathers, which she doesn't have in the comics, but that's because since then we've learned, oh yeah, pretty much all dinosaurs had feathers, which I don't know why people are opposed to that. I think they look awesome with feathers.
It's like, and you know, they're, you know, related to birds and everything, so it makes sense.
Yeah, so she looked pretty cool. But in the comics, her parents are time travelers, and they basically went back in time and got this dinosaur. In this one, they're like genetic engineers.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I can understand if time travel is too goofy for you. Like, wizards and warlocks, okay, that's a concept that's been around and everything. And also we have Doctor Strange already in this universe. In fact, in Doctor Strange, there's that moment in which the Sanctum Sanctorum in China starts getting attacked, and you see all the wizards there suiting up, and you see one wizard, a female wizard with like a hood covering her face, grabs the staff of one, which is the staff that's being used in the show. So they've already set this character up. They've already had like the concept of Nico's parents appear in their movies. So that's not that hard. And then like Alex's parents are gangsters. Let's see, Chase's parents are mad scientists. That's not a weird thing. That's in all supervillain stuff. Molly's parents are dead, so we don't even know what they were. Who am I missing out on? Oh, right. And then Carolina's parents, again, I'm not going to say what they are in the comics because that could be a shock when it's eventually revealed to you people. But in here, they do appear to be like Scientologist cult leaders. And you guys like, yeah, that's not weird. That's a very realistic thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, everybody, it seems like they were like, all right, let's, you know, everybody else in here matches up just fine with what we've seen. But everybody in here, I can see a regular audience buying it. But time travelers, I can understand that being like the one thing that they're like, yeah, people ain't quite ready for that. That's a little bit too odd for this. So it's like genetic engineers, yeah, makes total sense. Also, I love that they turn them into complete and total yuppies. I love that, man. And not just because her dad reminds me of Mark Maron, aka me in about 10 years. Yeah, that just kept cracking me up, just how yuppie-ish those two characters were. In fact, what they do with the Pride, I actually think is great, and I'll talk more about that in a second. But yeah, this show so far, it is amazing to me that they added changes in here. They had to, because even though this is a Marvel series that I can see matching up very well as a direct translation, if you did it as a movie, I could see a direct translation going very well, but the moment that you turn it into a TV series, you gotta stretch everything out. And everything they added in here, I am damn impressed with. Like, you know, Nico having a sister. That was not in the comics. That's a beautiful way to try and get all these kids together to talk about their past, talk about why they don't interact anymore, and also set up a mystery, because we see that these parents, they're part of the Pride, which in the Marvel Universe is a gang of supervillains. Here, It's like a weird Illuminati group almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's like they're establishing a school at one point. Like they're doing charity work. But it's very clear the charity work they're doing is for sinister purposes. Like, at one point, they mentioned that this school that they're trying to get built, which has been a plot point in all 3 episodes, it's mentioned, like, yeah, they're trying to do it for a reason. So it's like, okay, this is tying into something. And in the comics, the Pride was sacrificing kids to these 3 gods. Here, they're sacrificing it so this one mystery person can stay alive. Like, you see this one weird, like, person with, like, a decaying body hooked up to, like, a gas mask that's covering their whole face. And it's like, okay, in order to keep them alive, that's why they're doing this. Which I think is Carolina's granddad.
I think so, too.
Yeah, I mean, first off, he's there in the cult facility, and they keep mentioning how his dad founded the whole thing. And, like, you see, like, him painting a painting that he painted, a picture that he painted. You see a picture that he painted, and it is basically of what Carolina turns into when she takes her bracelet off and she gets the weird glowy hands.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, he knew some stuff about this, and it just makes sense for him to be there at this facility. So yeah, I think it's the granddad. Plus, they got an actor to come in there who looks real creepy to pose for all those pictures. It's like, yeah, you wouldn't waste a guy who looks like that and then not have him return as a supervillain. I'm sorry, you gotta say them?
No, it's, I think, like, I agree, like, the changes are good for a TV series and everything. And even though, like, Molly's supposed to be the younger one, I'm glad they aged her up because, you know, now she's going through puberty and everything.
That actually ties in really well, especially if they do make her a mutant.
Yeah, like...
Because mutant powers were meant to be like a metaphor for going through puberty because it always came around between like 13 and 18.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, she even says like she's barely even 12 anymore or like something.
Like she said she's not 12. She still acts younger than the rest of them. Like she still acts like super hyper and like, yeah, I did it. It's like, okay, that's a little bit like Molly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I understand they had to make changes to her.
So and that being said, they depict getting cramps very accurately.
I was about to say, this is the most accurate I have ever seen someone represent cramps, and they had to use it as a metaphor for you getting superpowers. I was like, yeah, your entire body changing and like tearing itself apart. It's like, yeah, that is the most accurate depiction I have ever seen of cramps. And again, I'm just speaking as a third-party observer on that one.
And I speak from experience.
Yeah. I think all the women out there were like, yep, wish I could push around a VW bug, but nope. I just feel like crap. Yeah, so, okay, I think we've covered most of them. Just talking about the kids themselves. Man, I was so worried. I joked about this at the beginning of the video. I was so worried that this was going to be like some CW pretty people with problems kind of thing. And it's like, no, this really feels like Runaways. Like, yes, it is pretty people with problems, but this is the best version of that I've ever seen. Like, this is incredibly well written. These kids seem three-dimensional. These kids actually, like, you feel that connection with each of them. Like, oh yeah, man, I feel bad for each of you going through this stuff. One other thing that they changed is that Chase in this, he is like an honor roll student and his dad like beats him if he gets a C on his report card. That was still true in the comics that his dad was abusive. Like the first time that you see his dad, he's beating the crap out of Chase. But in the comics, Chase is dumb as a bag of rocks. However, as the series goes along, he does get smarter. He does learn how to use machines. He does kind of like inherit his parents' ability to be mad scientist. But in the beginning, yeah, he was dumb. And this one, no, he is like a genius in here. I did also dig that they kept that Gert is kind of has a crush on him, except that in the comics, it wasn't nearly as obvious. Like when it eventually got revealed, it was like, oh, damn, okay. Wasn't expecting that. But I like it way more in here. Because one of the reasons why is because, yeah, Gertrude is going around is like, well, you know, trying to be more mature and above everyone else on this kind of thing, and point out the way the society treats everyone. Basically
a social justice warrior.
Yeah, like they flat out say she's a social justice warrior. But But that's the thing about Gert. She's not like one of the social justice warriors who's like, you know what, I want to promote more equality for everyone and this. She's one of the social justice warriors who's like, I will make sure I bring this up every single time I possibly can in every single conversation. It's like, yeah, we know people like that. All right.
Tumblr.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, I dig that it kind of makes her character complex, that like she goes around talking about this kind of stuff, and then she is just has the hots for Chase so bad. And I kind of really want to see like where that goes. Because we also see that Chase has the hots for Carolina, but you know that ain't gonna work out, because this one I do feel comfortable spoiling from the comics, because they really do set it up in the first episode. She's a lesbian. So yeah, that's not going to match up at all. Sorry for anybody who does find that as a spoiler, but that scene where she turned and saw the two girls making out, she's like, oh. I was like, yeah, I think anybody who can read between the lines has figured this one out at this point. But yeah, I was so worried that this was going to just be, you know, that, man, I've got that weird like light on my face. If I get too far.
Do you want to like...
It's fine. But yeah, I was so worried that they were just going to go the CW route, where it was so over exaggerated, no one can act, just they try way too hard to make everything moody and dramatic. This ain't Riverdale. Although I will say, the actors in Riverdale are way better than in the average CW show. I know I just said can't act. The Riverdale kids can act. I will gladly say that. But they try way too hard in that show to make it overly dramatic and overly soap opera-y. This show, everyone feels real.
Yeah.
Even though some of these people are kind of like massive stereotypes. Like Nico is the goth stereotype, but it's like, man, you see what she's going through. You get it. You get why she would have a freak out and try and summon a demon on the beach. I get it. Yeah, these kids are amazing actors, especially Chase, because we just got done talking in the Justice League review about how British actors have really telling traits when they try and do American accents. Chase is British, and I never would have guessed. That kid nails an American accent.
Gee, a British kid can do a better American accent than like professional like actors.
Than like grown-ass adults.
Yeah, exactly, grown-ass adults.
Because this kid is a professional actor. Everybody in here is a professional actor. But yeah, it's like, man, Henry Cavill, Charlie Cox, and that guy from Legion, all British actors who have the same trait of clipping their words too quickly at the end of each sentence, and every word ends like this. This kid sounds like natural American. This kid nails that. Although again, why the hell are all these British kids getting like roles in American superhero properties? Like, is it a weird thing where they don't work under SAG? Is that what this is? Like they are under some weird other union? I don't understand. But yeah, every single one of these kids is amazing. They do not go overboard with the drama. They set everything up and let it build like naturally. Like when they sit down to actually like talk about like Amy, I was like, this is something that like these kids would be going through. Man, the drama with them is so good. But another big change that they made to the show, and the thing that makes me actually enjoy this more than the comic. In the comic, the Pride were just, yes, we're supervillains. Mwah. Here, the Pride are people.
Yes.
Oh dear God, are they people? And I was watching this, and it was around the third episode when you see Nico's dad and Chase's mom, and you see them hooking up, which had been hinted all throughout this. But I was honestly wondering up until that point when they actually do hook up, I was actually wondering, okay, is that like a red herring? Is it going to be revealed that, you know, Nico's dad really does not want to be alone with Nico's mom. He doesn't want to like repair their damaged relationship. And Chase's mom, she's very much in an abusive relationship with her husband. And she's also getting phone calls and is like, well, okay, yeah, I'll see you tonight. And I was like, is this like, are they trying to give us a red herring and make us think that the two of them are hooking up? And then it's revealed, oh no, she was going to meet someone else and she's been cheating on someone else there in the Pride. No, they actually are like actually hooking up. However, it was around the third episode in which you see them actually hook up, and Nico's dad is actually talking about how he's going to buy a house for the two of them just to move in together. And I was like, oh my God, it's a soap opera. It is 100% just a soap opera with all these secrets and mysteries that people are hiding from each other and people cheating on each other and all these little strings going back and forth. And here's a secret about me. I get easily hooked on soap operas. I will never forget one winter a couple years back, I had gotten a pretty high profile job and I was like, oh man, this is amazing. I'm gonna make so much of a difference. This is gonna be such a great thing. And I won't say what it was, but I got there and on day one, they had me do just some horrendous shit that I didn't want any part of. And then I just basically worked there for several months afterwards and it just sucked every single day. And there came a point in which there was a huge shift at this place I worked and they had to reevaluate whether anyone wanted to stay at the company. And they were like, yeah, we don't think you like working here. I was like, yeah, kind of. So I got fired, but they gave me a severance package. So I didn't have to work for a month. And I was just deeply, deeply depressed after this. And so I was just there in the middle of the day, home alone, just watching whatever came on TV. And the only thing that came on in the middle of the day was soap operas. And I got hooked on reruns on the Lifetime channel of Desperate Housewives. Like, I just like, oh my God, this character's doing this thing, and this character's now got sick, and this other character's now dating this person, and oh my God, what's gonna happen to this person? That person's dead, but it could be linked to this thing, and there's a murder going on here.
Like, usually when you said soap operas, I thought you meant like Days of Our Lives.
I didn't go that far down. But I mean, like, Desperate Housewives was a soap opera, and like, I have gotten hooked on other ones before, but never the daytime ones because they're just too fucking insane. And you want to talk about bad acting. Don't get me wrong, they're better than me. You've seen the skits I've done on this channel. I ain't gonna throw shade at anybody and say, well, I could do it better. But I was like, man, yeah, there's some stuff that's just too corny. But I was watching this, I was like, this reminds me exactly of Desperate Housewives. Like, the stuff that the Pride is doing, I'm like, God damn, there's so much going on here. Because, listen, I want to keep talking about the kids, but I actually feel like what's going on with the Pride is even more interesting.
Yeah, because like in the comic, they basically, they just focus on the kids.
Yeah.
But like with the show, you focus on the kids and the adults, so you see things from their perspective, and you kind of get an understanding of why they're doing the things they're doing.
Yeah, and the Pride, the only personality that the Pride had in the comics was evil, and each of them were evil to different degrees.
Yeah.
And the most evil one was probably Alex's dad, who their family is meant to be the gangster family. And Alex's dad was probably the hardest motherfucker in that entire comic. Here, he's the one who's actually like, should we be doing this? Like, he's the one doubting it. Like, even the hippie liberal yuppies that are Gert's parents are just like, yeah, you know what, we're killing a kid. We're just, we just try not to think about it. He's actually the one who's like, I don't feel comfortable doing this anymore. And when it gets to that point in which, like, you see they're trying to work on some box because it's clear that this is more of like a science. I don't know if it's science or magic. Like, I think it's a combination of both.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you've got Nico's parents there who are obviously magical beings. And, I mean, sacrificing people to make another person live, like, that's definitely, like, a magic thing. But you see that Chase's dad is building something to sacrifice them in, and basically it's supposed to be some kind of an object that will keep them from having to do other sacrifices. Like, we don't know exactly what the deal is yet. It is not like it is in the comic where it's just, we sacrifice a kid to these gods, they give us power, blah, 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 blah. Here, something's going on, we still don't know what.
Yeah.
But he's trying to build a box to try and, like, ensure that they won't have to do more sacrifices. And his box won't work. And at the end of this, when it's revealed, like, yeah, that kid they tried to sacrifice is still alive, I was legit concerned for the Pride. Like, I should be concerned for the kid, but I was like, oh, how is Chase's dad gonna get out of this one? It's like, I shouldn't be thinking that. And then at the end of the third episode, when she washes up on the beach, her dead body, they're like, that means we have to make another sacrifice. I was like, fuck these kids, I don't care what they're doing at school. I want to know, okay, so now this guy who said, I have a machine that will ensure it works, and he lied to everyone, and he just had to kill this girl with his bare hands and drop her off at the beach. Okay, he's now probably wanted by the cops. Is he going to get caught? And what's going to happen when he has to meet the rest of the Pride again? They're going to be pissed at him, and his wife is cheating on him. Eventually, that's going to come up and be a thing. And what the heck is happening with Carolina's granddad and his mom, if that is the granddad, because we still don't even know. And then there's that that big revelation, they have like this serum that will force people to tell the truth. But like, there's a moment they're thinking of using it on Molly to make sure whether or not they found out what they were doing that night when they snuck in there and saw them. And there's a moment in which he says, yeah, you know what happened to, I can't remember his name. I had to actually look it up to make sure it's who they were talking about. But yeah, he says, you saw what it did to Carolina's dad. And it was like, yeah, why isn't Carolina's dad in part of the Pride? And why is her mom keeping him out of this conversation? Like, why is he not allowed in the special parts of this facility? Why is he not allowed to move up in this cult? Why is it that he's the only parent who doesn't go to the Pride meetings? Because that's not how it is in the comic. In the comic, he's there with them the whole way. But all I could think was, well, he was a celebrity growing up. Could it be that Carolina's mom has been just using him for his celebrity to build up the church and get it more attention? Basically, you know, Scientology. But then they have that mention of, you saw what it did to him. I was like, oh shoot, he used to be a member of the Pride. What's going to happen? What happened there? So yeah, that is the thing.
It was like I think it was more like a brainwashing serum.
That's what I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's like a truth serum, but I think like it basically caused him to forget a ton of stuff. And like he's acting kind of dumb and goofy. Like not like goofy, but like he definitely is not on the level of competence that everyone else is. I'm wondering if it like gave him brain damage. And they're also like talking about like how his acting career hasn't been able to work since he joined this cult. What if it's also, you know, what if it's partly because of that, but what if it's also partly because, like, yeah, he just doesn't have that spark anymore. Like, he just lost his acting chops after he, like, had this serum put in him. Yeah, it really makes me wonder what's going to happen when that all gets revealed. What is the past of that? Like, the past of the Pride is so fascinating in here. So, yeah, the kids. Great, want to see their journey continue. I love watching them all come together. Their personalities are wonderful. The kids acting as them are fantastic. I think this show nails every single thing that's trying to do with the kids, and yet it made the Pride so much more interesting to me. I cannot wait to see what happens with them. One thing that we started talking about, but then I kind of skimmed over it, is we did mention the budget on this show, and I was just like, how are they affording such big houses? How can they like hold on old lace for this long and have her look this good? And there was a moment in which they're examining Chase's dad's x-ray goggles, and Gert says, oh, I read about this on Wired, and then Chase goes, oh, I love that site. And I was like, okay, they got some money from Wired, all right. But then I kept noticing that they kept like using lifts everywhere in here. Like in the first episode, Carolina is in the back of a lift and even says lift on there. And then in the second episode, like they say, I'll call you a lift. And then in the third episode, when Nico's dad is getting up to leave, he goes, I'll call a lift. And it was around that time that I went, these guys got sponsored by Lyft. But I'm okay with that.
Yeah, like that's how you do product placement without being forced.
Listen, nobody likes product placement, but I get how the sausage is made. I get that sometimes you gotta do that to get money for your show. What I can't stand is when they just stop and like have to hold a product up in everyone's face. It makes absolute sense to me that like people would be using Lyft. Like the only thing that doesn't make this seem natural is that, you know, nobody is using Uber. Like they're all just using Lyft, which isn't as popular as Uber, but at the same time, Uber's company has gotten into some trouble, and this is supposed to be young, hip kids. I can understand the young, hip kids going, oh, I read about what Uber did. I'm using Lyft from now on. It's like, yeah, okay, I totally understand that. And no one is stopping to go, oh, you know, well, with Lyft, you can make sure that you get anywhere that you're going on time. And blah, blah, blah. Like... No, they just go, yeah, I'll get a Lyft. It's like, that's exactly how someone would say that in conversation. Someone would say it that exact way. Yeah, that absolutely works. Like, even if they focused on someone's phone while they were bringing up the Lyft app, I was like, okay, that's not too bad of a thing. But they haven't even done that yet. It's all just been people saying it, and then like one shot of like the little like Lyft reader in someone's car that says Lyft on it. It's like, all right, yeah. I would not have thought about that. We went 3 episodes with them mentioning Lyft in every single episode. I did not think about that until the 3rd episode. It's like, okay, man, if Lyft paid you so that you can have the dinosaur in here, you were able to work out a wonderful deal with them because they aren't cramming it in here too hard. Also, if we had watched these episodes one week after another, probably wouldn't have noticed it at all. It was only the fact that we watched 3 episodes back to back to back that it was like, wait a minute. But yeah, now unfortunately I'm not going to be able to not see it. I will definitely see it in future episodes. God damn that light. I will definitely see it in future episodes, but at the same time, yeah, man, if you just watch this episode by episode, I really do think that you would not have noticed this, but I do feel like it's going to be one of those, like, we have to have it mentioned every single episode. Like, that's the deal that we broke with them. We have to have a lift come up every single episode. So yeah, it might get annoying down the road, but as of right now, it's great.
Yeah.
Also, the thing with Wired is like, yeah, that's exactly how someone would say, like, someone saying they love Wired. All right, cool. Plus, it's the kid of the mad scientist, and he's like a big egghead in this show. It's like, yeah, okay, I can see him like reading Wired, sure. Also, I gotta say, like, I love that the X-ray goggles look exactly like they do in the comics. Old Lace looks exactly like they do in the comics. Like, they tried to match everything in here up so damn well. But okay, time to go into theory time for the future couple episodes. And the first thing I'm going to ask, and I'm going to try and be real careful, because this is a spoiler from the comic, and if it's going to happen in the show, it would be a huge spoiler for the show. But in the comic, it's revealed that one of the kids is a traitor and working with the Pride. Not going to say who it is, but do you think they're going to do that in the show?
Well,
that was a rhetorical question. I know I will often ask a question and then answer it myself. No, that was for you.
Well, maybe. Because they depict the Pride so human-like that it wouldn't surprise me if one of the kids actually did kind of get convinced and start betraying their other friends.
Yeah. And also, I mean, like, it's a soap opera. Betrayal is part of a soap opera. However, there is also a couple things that happen in the first few episodes that was like, well, that was really convenient that this would all work out. But if a certain character gets revealed to be a traitor, it wouldn't seem convenient. It would seem like, oh, that's why this happened. Okay, so like it would actually work out really damn well if it got revealed that this person was a traitor. That same person also, you know what, now I'm getting to the point in which I really would be spoiling some stuff for the comic, even if I do say it cryptically. But yeah, it's one of those where it's like, I can see this show, even if someone turns out to be a traitor, it wouldn't quite go down the road that it went in the comic, because I think that they would try and get more use out of this person. Because like, yeah, as I said, in the comic, the Pride is just pure evil. Here, they are very complex characters. I feel like if someone turned out to be a traitor, they would not go down the same road with them that they went with in the comics, because they would try and do a thing where they keep them more three-dimensional, more not just I betrayed you because I believe in the Pride, but more just because like they have other reasons. Maybe they can be redeemed.
Or like I can see like one of the characters, like the characters going back and forth between whether or not they want to like go with the Pride or like stick with their friends.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think it'll happen, because like I said, there are a couple of like, well, that seems like this would only happen if there was a huge coincidence, or if somebody was already knew this stuff and was like trying to set this up for the Pride. My other question is, Amy was not in the comics at all. Nico's sister, not in the comics at all. However, we do know that the Pride has had to keep sacrificing children. Do you think it will be revealed that Amy was sacrificed for the Pride? That's what, because they haven't said how she died. They haven't really mentioned squat about her. So I'm really wondering if that's going to be the big twist. If the big twist is, yeah, none of us wanted to do it, we all felt bad about it, but she was the chosen, like, we can only sacrifice specific people, we got desperate, and she was the only one we could find who matched up perfectly with what the sacrifice had to be. It had to happen. Yeah, I actually think that would be the twist.
The Like, I'm also like wondering about like Molly's parents, because like Gert's parents, they mentioned like we didn't want to do this to them.
Yeah, and there is at the funeral, you see they died in a fire, and you see that Nico's mom has burns on her hand.
Yeah.
And like Alex's dad pulls Gert's dad aside and just goes, oh no, he pulls, I can't remember who he pulled aside specifically. I think it was Nico's dad. Yeah, he pulled Nico's dad aside, and he was just like, why she have burns on her hand? What did he do? And he was like, hey, don't think that we had anything to do with this. And I was like, yeah, Nico's mom doesn't play around in here. Like, Nico's mom is very strict. I can see her being like, oh, you didn't want to do this anymore? Too bad. We need to keep doing this. And if you're going to go to the cops about this, you got to die. Yeah, I can totally see that being something that happens in here. Yeah, I definitely think that's going to be a thing. Like I said, I just think that they'll keep why they had powers out of this for a while, because I think that Marvel really is like, they're hitting that point in which they're like, we need to get the freaking mutants back at this point. The Inhumans ain't doing it. We need to get them back. But speaking of that, dear God, man, fire that guy who made Inhumans and did Iron Fist, because after seeing this, I don't know why, but I was expecting Hulu to have like a smaller like budget or quality than the Netflix shows, and I was watching this and I was like, this is the best TV show you've done outside of like Jessica Jones. Like, you can easily say that this is in like the top 3 shows that they've done. And we're only 3 episodes into it. Who knows how good it'll be by the end of it. It could also take a total nosedive, but yeah, I just looked at this and then I looked over at like Inhumans, where they had no understanding of these characters. They just used it as an excuse to take a vacation in Hawaii. And I was just like, fire that dude. He's the same dude who did Iron Fist. He didn't care about that character at all. This show shows what you can do with a concept when you have people who understand the characters and really want to make it work. Like, God, this doesn't even feel like it's filmed on sets. It feels like they're going to actual locations, which is so rare in a TV show these days. So yeah, man, this thing just blew me away. But yeah, so Amy, I think it's gonna be revealed that she was a sacrifice. Molly's parents, yeah, they definitely were like trying to betray the Pride, and Nico's mom definitely took them out. I'm totally on board with that. Also, one other small change that they made in here that I'm actually okay with is that the Staff of One, in the comics, it emerges from Nico's body whenever she bleeds. And I can totally understand why the producers would come in here and go, we can't have a teenage girl cutting herself in our TV show to gain superpowers. Ain't gonna work. So in this, the Staff of One is a completely separate thing. But when Nico touched it to activate it, it does prick her finger. So it's like, all right, that's a good compromise on this thing.
Yeah, it's like you prick your finger to activate it.
Yeah, it's like so, okay, still got the blood being used to activate it thing, got it, but she doesn't actually have to like, she doesn't actually like take a razor blade to herself, which is something that we have seen in the comics before in College of Powers. Which, yeah.
That's awkward.
Yeah. Granted, she would do it on her leg, so it's not like she was actually like, it didn't look like suicide, but it was still like, yeah, it's still meant to represent something that kids who are really depressed do in real life.
And
I get why you wouldn't want to do that. Yeah, don't touch that.
Some kids do cut themselves on the legs instead.
Yeah, just to feel. I understand, but it's like, it's still, you're representing a thing that like kids who are depressed in real life do, and something that you don't want to encourage kids doing. So I totally understand why they did that.
It's like, I noticed like another thing they changed was Carolina's bracelet. Like, wasn't it a medical bracelet?
It was a medical bracelet, you're right.
Yeah, but
and
like,
this is like the church cult thing. It's like, okay, interesting.
Yeah, so like, it's interesting how that connects to like the Pride, like, purpose basically.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that is an interesting change that they made, and really fits into this whole like Scientology cult that they create a whole lot more. Which the thing is about the cult, it keeps making me think though, is this still tied into those 3 gods from the comics? Because what if it turns out the religion she built is based around those 3 gods, and like that's how the sacrifices are working? The gods are like keeping the grandpa alive this whole time through the sacrifices. Like, maybe that's what's going on, because like, yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if those 3 giant gods appeared, and maybe like not looking like they did in the comics, because yeah, they were able to get old Lace in here, but they couldn't get like 3 giant gods as well. I think that would be too much money for them to spend. But yeah, I can totally see it still like tying in the comics in that way. But also, I love how like sheltered Carolina is.
Yeah.
Like, I love that Carolina, she's just like, I am tired of just being like the poster child for my parents' religion. I'm tired of just being the person who gets called there for interviews. I'm never allowed to have fun, never allowed to go out there and do anything else. She is so sheltered that when she took her bracelet off and she saw her hands come to life and getting all colorful, she thought that just happened when you take the bracelet off. Like, she was asking other people at the church about taking the bracelet off and like, yeah, what happened? Did you see the colors? And like, what? Okay. I mean, I got the suntan around there. It was like, that's it. And I was like, man, that is how sheltered she is. She really hasn't ever taken this off. She doesn't know what happens when you take this bracelet off. So yeah, I really can't wait to see where this goes. I'm just blown away by the first 3 episodes. This is easily one of the best things I've seen Marvel do at this point. It could take a total nosedive. Who knows how bad it could get, but typically these shows get better as they go along. So yeah, I am really on board. This will be the first one of these shows that I've really watched on a weekly basis. Because like I've mentioned before, I'm so used to just binge watching everything now that when the Marvel Netflix shows come out, I just try and watch it all within the span of like 24 hours. Here, after like 3 episodes, I was like, oh God, I would totally just watch all these episodes in a row if I possibly could. But we gotta wait. So, next Tuesday is the new episode. We're not gonna do one of these every single week, but when the whole series is over with, we will do another one. So if you wanna see that or any of our other reviews and post-Geekout reactions for anything else from the world of geekery, then make sure that you click that subscribe button. And as always, you can follow us on Twitter, Twitch, and Tumblr at Professor Thorgy. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Come back next time. Bye.
Next time we'll make sure that sun isn't shining on us.
Oh, now when I'm trying to do the gag, I can't find the sunlight. There it is. Yay. Oh. How long have we been talking that the sun moved that much within the span of this conversation? Bye.
Bye.